Hello everyone, and welcome to our video on Julius Caesar, Act 3, Scene 1. So, based on the reading that you've done, right, for Act 2, Scene 3 and 4, those really short scenes, we see that even in the midst, right, of the conspirators finally coming together and thinking that everything's going to go off without a hitch, right? We see a few things that might ruin things. One of them being Majoris, who is a lover of Caesar, meaning his friend, okay? And we also see that Portia is kind of starting to lose her cool a little bit, rightfully so, because she understands what Brutus is going to do. So either of these two sort of ticking time bombs could play a role in our scene today and disrupting the conspirators. So today's scene takes place in the capital in Rome. It is fully fledged, the Ides of March, right? So we're not in the evening, we're not in the pre-dawn or the dawn of. It has fully come, and things are about to go down. And when I say things, I mean Caesar, right? His time has come. We've seen it coming the whole time through dramatic irony. And now we're going to see that slow buildup, right? So this scene is going to be intense. And I want to draw your attention for a moment to the characters. You're going to see there are a plethora of them, okay? So all of them you're already familiar with. But just to clarify from the beginning, okay? You're going to see on this list, so you have Publius, and you also have Publius, yes, these strange P names. And these are going to be two characters who, note, have not been part of the conspiracy. And I point that out now so you can pay attention as we read through the first portion of the scene to see how they respond to the rest of the conspirators. Without any further ado, let's dive into Act 3, Scene 1. The Senate sits on a higher level, waiting for Caesar to appear. Artemidorus and the soothsayer are among the crowd. A flourish of trumpets. Enter Caesar, Brutus, Cassius, Casca, Decius, Medalists, Trebonius, Cinna, Antony, Lepidus, Publius, and others. Caesar stops in front of the soothsayer. The Ides of March are come. Aye, Caesar, but not gone. Artemidorus steps up to Caesar with his warnings. Hail, Caesar! Read this schedule. Decius steps up quickly with another paper. Trebonius doth desire you to orand, at your best leisure, this his humble suit. O Caesar, read mine first, for mine's suit that touches Caesar nearer. Read it, great Caesar. What touches us ourself shall be last served. Caesar pushes the paper aside and turns away. Delay not, Caesar. Read it instantly. What, is this fellow mad? Sirrah, give place. Publius and the conspirators force Artemidorus away from Caesar. What? Urge you your petitions in the street. Come to the Capitol. Caesar goes into the Senate house, the rest following. Publius speaks to Cassius in a low voice. I wish your enterprise today may thrive. What enterprise, Publius? Very well. Advances to Caesar. What said Publius Lena? He wished today our enterprise might thrive. I fear our purpose is discovered. Look how he makes to Caesar. Mark him. Casca, be sudden, for we fear prevention. Brutus, what shall be done? If this be known, Cassius or Caesar shall never turn back, for I will slay myself. Cassius, be constant. Publius Lena speaks not of our purposes, for look, he smiles, and Caesar doth not change. Trebonius knows his time, for look you, Brutus, he draws Mark Antony out of the way. Exeunt Antony and Trebonius. Where is medalist Cimber? Let him go and presently prefer his suit to Caesar. He is addressed. Press near and second him. Casca, you are the first that rears your hand. Caesar seats himself in his high Senate chair. Are we all ready? What is now amiss that Caesar and his Senate must redress? Most high, most mighty, and most puissant Caesar, medalist Cimber throws before thy seat an humble heart. Kneeling, I must prevent thee, Cimber. These couchings and these lowly courtesies might fire the blood of ordinary men, and turn preordinance and first degree into the law of children. Be not fond to think that Caesar bears such rebel blood, that be thawed from the true quality, with that which melteth fools, I mean sweet words, low crooked curtsies, and base spaniel fawning. Thy brother is by decree banished. If thou dost bend and pray and fawn for him, I spurn thee like a cur out of my way. No, Caesar doth not wrong, not without cause will he be satisfied. Is there no voice more worthy than my own, to sound more sweetly in great Caesar's ear for the repealing of my banished brother? I kiss thy hand, but not in flattery, Caesar, desiring thee that Publius Cimber may have an immediate freedom of repeal. What, Brutus? Pardon, Caesar, Caesar, pardon. As low as to thy foot doth Cassius fall, to beg enfranchisement for Publius Cimber. I could be well moved, if I were as you. If I could pray to move, prayers would move me. But I am as constant as the northern star, of whose true fixed and resting quality there is no fellow in the firmament. The skies are painted with unnumbered sparks. They are all fire, and every one doth shine. But there is but one in all doth hold his place. So in the world, 'tis furnished well with men, and men are flesh and blood, and apprehensive. Yet in the number I do not know but one, that unassailable holds on his rank, unshaked of motion, and that I am he. Let me a little show it, even in this, that I was constant Cimber should be banished, and constant do remain to keep him so. O Caesar, hence! Wilt thou lift up Olympus? Great Caesar! Doth not Brutus bootless kneel? Speak hands for me. They stab Caesar, Casca, the others in turn, then Brutus. Et tu, Brute? Then fall, Caesar. Dies. Liberty, freedom, tyranny is dead. Run hence, proclaim, cry it about the streets. Some to the common pulpits and cry out, liberty, freedom, and enfranchisement. People and senators, be not affrighted, fly not, stand still. Ambition's debt is paid. Go to the pulpit, Brutus, and Cassius too. Where's Publius? Here, quite confounded with this mutiny. Stand fast together, lest some friend of Caesar should chance. Talk not of standing. Publius, good cheer. There is no harm intended to your person, nor to no Roman else. So tell them, Publius. And leave us, Publius, lest that the people, rushing on us, should do your age some mischief. Do so, and let no man abide this deed, but we the doers. Re-enter Trebonius. Where is Antony? Fled to his house amazed. Men, wives, and children stare, cry out, and run as it were doomsday. Fates, we will know your pleasures. That we shall die, we know. 'Tis but the time, and drawing days out, that men stand upon. Why, he that cuts off 20 years of life cuts off so many years of fearing death. Grant that, and then is death a benefit. So are we Caesar's friends, that we have abridged his time of fearing death. Stoop, Romans, stoop, and let us bathe our hands in Caesar's blood up to the elbows, and besmear our swords. Then walk we forth, even to the marketplace, and waving our red weapons o'er our heads, let's all cry, peace, freedom, and liberty. Stoop then, and wash. How many ages hence shall this our lofty scene be acted over in states unborn and accents yet unknown? How many times shall Caesar bleed and sport, that now on Pompey's bases lies along, no worthier than the dust? So oft as that shall be, so often shall the not of us be called the men that gave their country liberty. What, shall we forth? Aye, every man away. Brutus shall lead, as we will grace his heels with the most boldest and best hearts of Rome. And here we have it. Caesar, once again, giving in to his pride and failing to see the obvious warnings in front of him. Primarily, Majoris. And so you know from your reading in the last scenes from Act 2 that Majoris is a true friend of Caesar, much like Mark Antony, and he seeks to tell Caesar what is about to come, right? But he is ignored by Caesar, and we also see that the conspirators sort of help this. So just some quick vocabulary here. So when Majoris is asking Caesar to read this schedule, he means the document or letter he's already prepared. And so Decius, right, not one to miss a beat, steps in just in time and presents this other letter or document for Caesar to read instead. And so we kind of have this sort of tug of war between Majoris and Decius, and read my letter, no, read mine first, right? And this is high stakes, right? Depending on who Caesar listens to, at this point he seals his fate. And unfortunately, we see that Caesar chooses not to listen to Majoris, right? Even though the soothsayer, not even moments before, has warned Caesar, yeah, you're right, buddy, it is the Ides of March, they're here, but they're not gone like you think, so beware. But instead, Caesar fails to see the signs, and he even calls Majoris a fool. And so we're going to continue to see that the conspirators are working overtime to make sure nothing goes wrong. And they have a lot of work to do here in particular, because they come to find out that a few of the characters who shouldn't know about the conspiracy do, right? Primarily Publius and Publius. And we know that Publius has some sort of inkling of what's going to happen, right? Because not only is he severely rude to Majoris, right? He essentially says, get out of here. We also see in these stage directions that he and the conspirators, right, meaning he is not among them, pull Majoris away and force him sort of to abandon his attempts to warn Caesar. But at the same time, we also see Publius here in this portion of the scene, and he is definitely not with the conspirators, but somehow he knows, right? Because he essentially whispers to Cassius that, I hope what you're planning today goes well. And Cassius plays dumb, but then we see in the very next lines that he turns to Brutus, and Cassius is freaked out, right? Because remember, he's already said, it's either this works out or I'm killing myself, right? Something he's hinted at a multitude of times. And so Brutus sort of keeps this cool head while we see Cassius, right, so afraid that things are going to fail right when they have begun to grasp them. And so we continue to see Brutus sort of step up as this voice of calm and reason, and after sort of the slight bump in the road in their trip to murdering Caesar, things begin to go as planned. And we begin to see this, right, in the fact that Caesar is easily fooled, right? So one, he fails to notice that Trebonius has sort of spirited away his only pal from among these men, Mark Antony, right? So by not seeing that, he doesn't question why they're doing that. But then we also begin to see that Decius, right, this king of flattery when it comes to Caesar, right, presents to us as the reader the plan of how they're going to get so close to Caesar all of them at once. And they plan to bring this suit or this petition before Caesar, and that we find out is the petition to have medalist Cimber's brother, also called Publius, a little bit confusing, right, but different person, to have him sort of freed from his exile that Caesar placed upon him. And we also see that Casca is designated here by Cinna to be the first one to strike Caesar. And so again, here Caesar begins, and we, like always, see him in his good, prideful self, right? So he sort of sits down in this high chair above everyone else, and he says that he, Caesar, that's Caesar, so referring to himself in the third person, always a sign of pride, right? And his Senate must redress. So essentially saying, like a king, like a monarch would, I am on my throne, you my subjects, what wrongs do you want me to right? And so here, when he's been given the wrong that they want righting, right, learning of medalists, Cimber's brothers exiling, Caesar is completely unmoved. You guys, he is savage when it comes to tearing medalists apart. And he begins essentially by saying, this flattery, right, bowing down in front of me, is not going to get me to change the laws of the country, right, the preordinance and first decree. But he doesn't stop there, right? That would have been enough. He goes on to ridicule medalists in front of all of these people, right? So I think we're also starting to see what sort of person Caesar is and why medalists in particular would be so motivated to kill him, right? It's, if I kill Caesar, I get my brother back. I can buy his freedom with Caesar's blood. But we also begin to see that Caesar is going to liken medalists to a dog, right? Here I've underlined that for you, those two instances. So you're acting like this base spaniel fawn, it's this dog begging on the floor, even calling him a cur, right? So it's not just, you're not just any dog, medalist, you're a mongrel, right? You're a mutt. And so being called a dog, right? Think about your own cultural context, not a nice thing at all. Fighting words, right? Caesar just lays out on medalists, right? But even in the face of that, and perhaps this should have been warning enough for Caesar, right? We see that medalists, he simply just continues to plead with him. Like, isn't it enough that I'm pleading for my brother, right? I love him. But then we also have Brutus step in, right? And he sort of, you have this image of him stepping forward, kissing Caesar's hand and saying, I'm not doing this to flatter you, right? But we're going to see that he's also going to try to convince Caesar to change his mind. And this we do, right? And it comes at great shock for Caesar, right? So perhaps Caesar is starting to become aware that something is not right. Why does Brutus care so much about this? Why? And then we also have Cassius, right? Jumping into the mix, right? Pardon him, meaning let him come back, right? And give him enfranchisements. In this case, meaning freedom. Free him. But again, Caesar is not one to be moved. And he says the reason why I'm not giving in, like you poor people would, right, is that I am powerful. I am the greatest man of all of the men among you. And he uses both simile and imagery to show just how great he is, right? Greater than those around him. He likens himself first to the northern star, right? Think about just astronomy for a moment, right? The northern star is constant, right? Wherever you are, it doesn't change its place. It's something fixed, reliable. He's saying, I am like that star. I am fixed in my decision, and I am reliable in terms of my decrees, right? But then he also goes on to say that of all of the men, right, just like all of the other stars, they hold fire, right? So there's something true in them that characterizes them. But this northern star is better. And just like me, I am better than you. So his pride just shining through clear as day. And it's this pride, right, that's going to eventually lead to Caesar's downfall. And we've seen it coming for so long. And he makes his decision, right? I'm constant that I'm not going to allow your brother, medalist, to come back. And sort of we have this display of grief from people around him. But remember, they are all putting on a show, right? They don't care one way or another what Caesar has to say. This is a ruse to get close to him. So you should imagine Cinna when he says, oh, Caesar, like throwing himself near to him. And hence Caesar's sort of, what the heck are you doing response, right? Hence, meaning get away. Essentially saying, are you planning to move Mount Olympus? Like, who are you begging and pleading with, right? I'm not going to be moved, no more than you could move this great mountain in Greece, right? Then we have Decius, great Caesar, so we can imagine him throwing himself near to him. And again, this reply, he's just sort of dumbfounded, right? How stupid can you guys be? Even Brutus was not enough to sway me, and I love him. And this is where we see Casca step up, and he says, "Speak, hands, for me." And again, he's not talking to Caesar. Here he's talking to himself, right? He's talking to his hands. "Speak for me," meaning show my wrath. And this is where he begins to stab Caesar, and the rest join in, ending with Brutus. And this is potentially one of the most heartbreaking lines in the whole entire play, right? Meaning, "And you, Brutus." So here the Latin, right? Not to be confused with French, right? As Latin language is very similar. But here Caesar resorting to Latin and speaking just to Brutus. And this is so powerful, you guys, because the next words out of his mouth, right? "Why, Brutus?" He says, "Then let me die." Right? That's how close of a friend he thought Brutus was to him, only to find out that he's been betrayed. And we see this sort of play out in the aftermath of his death, right? So you have Cinna and Cassius who are rejoicing immediately after they've killed him, right? Their swords, their daggers are covered in his blood, and they're cheering and rejoicing. And we have Cassius again calling for enfranchisement, but in this sense, not just meaning freedom, but a free government, right? I have finally gotten what I desire. But then we have Brutus. And Brutus, again, ever the sort of honorable person, he looks to the crowd around him who have been watching this the whole time. And they're probably wondering, am I next? Because I supported Caesar, what are they going to do to me? So you can imagine people getting up, pushing each other, trying to run, seek safety. And Brutus seeks to calm them by telling them that ambition's debt is paid. Meaning that the ambition Caesar had, right, that is what we wanted to quell. And we have by killing him. So you don't need to fear. And sort of now getting again into the aftermath of finally killing Caesar, right? We see that they quickly need to figure out what their next move is. And they look first to Publius, and they're confused about, one, where is he, right? And how is he taking all of this? Because remember, he doesn't know that this is going to happen, right? And so here we see that he is described by Cinna as being confounded or confused with this mutiny. So it comes to him as a shock, right? And we also begin to see that Medalists in particular fears, well, now that we've killed Caesar, what are the rest of the people in the Senate going to do? What about his friends? And so Brutus, again, this calming force, calms both Medalists and Publius, right, by comforting Publius, like, we're not out to harm you at all. Our deed is done. But also Medalists, right, that we're not going after anyone else, right, and we're going to stand together and no one will come against us either. And then here we have the re-entering of Trebonius. And this is important because, remember, Trebonius was responsible for taking Antony away in the first place. And he brings news that the streets of Rome are in complete chaos because of what they've done. The Roman people now already know what's happened, right? You can imagine some senators fled, right, during the act, right, and are now telling everyone that these crazy group of madmen in the Senate have murdered Caesar. And so now they're going to have to deal with that sort of repercussion. And so, oddly, right, the first thing they talk about, meaning Brutus and Cassius, in terms of dealing with this, is they try to convince themselves, or mostly Brutus, right, that they have done Caesar this great favor, right, that they have done him a favor in that death and waiting for death can be daunting. And Cassius sort of gives him this excuse to hang on to, like, we cut off 20 years of his life, right, more or less, and now he no longer has to fear death, right? What a beautiful gift we've given him. And Brutus, right, ever the one to want to distance himself from the negative aspects of what he's done, convinces himself that, oh yeah, we're right. In fact, we're Caesar's friends for doing this, right? When I think you and I can agree, I don't think any friend in the world would take kindly to this sort of logic. And so here we see that Brutus, though, is still steeped in honor. And rather than sort of wanting to hide and to cower, he says no. Instead, let us bathe in the blood of Caesar. So again, remember Calpurnia's dream. The woman was right, and they're bathing in his blood to show that we're not afraid, right? We've done this for you, O people of Rome. And again, I've underlined this portion here just because it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, right? Because remember, Shakespeare is the one writing this. And so Cassius says that their deed, what they've done, is so great that people will be acting out this scene in states unborn, meaning countries not yet established, and accents that they've never heard of before, right? And this is true. But again, it's true because Shakespeare is writing this in hindsight. And then finally, one last thing for this section, looking at irony. And here we see the irony of the fact that Caesar's body lies dead at the very feet of the statue of the man he hated most, Pompey. And then finally, we see that the conspirators agree to go out to face the Roman people, that Brutus will lead them, and this will be to show the people of Rome how truly good their act was instead. So again, we get this clear belief that they think they have done the right thing. And this is true of Brutus as well, right? He also clearly believes that they have done wrong in terms of having to kill Caesar, but that it wasn't wrong because it was for the greater good. That is going to be it for the first part of Scene 1. I just want to give you a warning of some homework in advance, okay? So we still have one more video to go for Act 3, Scene 1. Okay, this is a really long one. But after that, I would like you to read Scene 2 on your own. So pages 747 to page 756 of your literature textbook. I'm telling you now because it is a little bit longer than the last reading, so you can pace yourself in that. So you won't have to have read that scene until Tuesday, May the 26th, where I'm going to be posting a video analyzing that section. So again, you're watching these videos at your own pace, so know that the video will be up on Tuesday, that you'll have access to that. So if you have read Scene 2 by then, great, dive straight into the analysis video. If not, know that you'll have to play a little bit of catch up, okay? And as always, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in our video for Monday, where we cover the analysis of the rest of Act 3, Scene 1.